What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the PrizePicks Picks Show here on a great Thursday. Limited slate of baseball games, only one NBA game, but we do have the PGA Championship underway. The two picks that we've started with for the PGA Championship, we put them in a few days ago. Michael Block, more than 74.5 strokes. John Daly, more than 76.5 strokes. Those both look really good. So it appears as though we're going to be off to a 2-0 start. I've got a third PGA Championship pick that I love. Guy tees off this afternoon, so we got plenty of time to get that one in. Hopefully we can start off 3-0 here on the Thursday at the PGA Championship. The theme of today's show is that PrizePicks is making me very mad. Very, very mad. They have, at the same time, number one, very much limited the amount of picks and props, the types of props that they are offering for the PGA Championship. Makes it a whole lot tougher to find those great picks, but fortunately, they have given us some. But then at the same time, they've also kind of nerfed the effect of demons on a lot of the 6-pick plays. So instead of going from 25 to 38 on every demon, you got to pay attention. Sometimes it only goes to 32. Sometimes it goes to 26, 28. Sometimes we even the other day found we were using a Kyle Tucker demon and it went to 21 instead of 36. So I don't know what it is that they're doing. They're making it a lot tougher. They also don't have as many of the demons available today. Like couldn't find any 2.5 hit plus run plus RBI demons for Tucker, for Alvarez, for Bryce Harper, any of the guys that I really wanted to look to. Maybe they'll add them as the day goes on. We will see. But for the time being, my focus is now on making PrizePicks pay for making our lives much more difficult. Look, I don't know the data behind their decisions on that. They maybe know something we don't, but I have a very, very difficult time envisioning a scenario where it's good for their business to make the product this much less enjoyable. So again, our job is to make them pay for this and just take their money anyway, which we can do because we have these great projection tools. So we're going to start with baseball. Got 3 one-offs there, have 2 on the NBA side of things, including a demon that I love, and then we will finish the show with the PGA Championship pick that I still love. So hopefully we can still hit a 6-pick play today, make them pay for all these changes that they are sending our way. Exactly. Look, I don't know why they're doing this. Maybe we're taking too much of their money. Maybe there are more people out there that are doing the kinds of things that we're doing. Again, I have a very hard time seeing that. This seems more to me like they just don't want anybody winning. They want to take money from every single one of their users. We're not going to let them do that. We're going to continue to take their money. Let's jump into exactly how we're doing that today. So we're going to start with baseball. As I said, first 2 picks that show up, Christian Javier, Clark Schmidt, more than 26.5 and 27.5 fantasy points. Both of these look really strong. And in the case of Javier especially, I think there's an important point to be made because if you go and you look at Christian Javier's game log, he had like a month off, and then he pitched, couldn't even get through the second inning, gave up, I think it was 7 runs, a ton of hits. He walked a bunch of guys. And so you could look at that and you could say, man, I don't know if I want to bet on that guy. But understand this, if Javier hadn't been injured for a while, if Javier had a great first start back, his line wouldn't be 26.5. It'd be 30.5. It'd be maybe even like 34.5 based on how talented this guy is against an A's team that has outperformed for sure, but there's still not a lineup that should strike a ton of fear into us. They should strike out a decent amount. This is a very solid matchup for Javier. So I love the 26.5. Always keep that sort of thing in mind. If the thing that's making you hesitate weren't true, would you still be getting the same line? And most of the time, the answer is going to be no. And so when the model tells you, hey, this has got a 67% chance, one of the reasons is because people aren't necessarily going there because they are afraid of the long absence, of the bad last start. We don't want to be afraid of those things. We just want to look at how likely this is to hit. 67% is fantastic. And then Clark Schmidt, similar scenario in the sense that Minnesota has also been probably outperforming a little bit offensively, so that makes it a little bit scary. But again, Schmidt has been fantastic. He rates extremely well in a lot of our new filth metrics. We've got him at 66% here. So really like these 2 to start. And then I'm going with another fantasy point prop. We had Taijuan Walker, less than 4.5 strikeouts for most of the morning up. That was just dropped a few minutes ago. And that had been, I think it was 63%. We're going to go to Taijuan to his fantasy points now. We can still get less than 27.5. It's not quite as good, 58.3%. But one of the things I really like about this, the Phillies bullpen is extremely rested. 2 games ago, Nola went a complete game. Last night, it was Ranger Suarez, then Spencer Turnbull. So they only needed 1 inning from an actual reliever, and it wasn't even one of the regular guys. So fully rested bullpen. Taiwan will probably have a short leash here. So I like the less than 27.5, and New York just doesn't strike out a ton. So we liked his under on the strikeouts. I also think he's going to have a short leash. Put those two together, and I like the less than fantasy points even more than the model says. Model says 58%. I think it's more like 62, 63%, something along those lines. So 3 really strong pitcher props to start. And then let's go over to the NBA side of things. And we're going to start my favorite department. We're going to go to the steals. You know, I always like turnovers. I always like steals. I always like blocks. Looking for these less than plays. We've got one on Christian Braun. So 0.44 projected steals doesn't look like a great play next to a 0.5 number, but the way steals are distributed, this is really solid. 64%. If you look at what he's done throughout the playoffs, he's pretty much right in line with that. If you look, he only averaged 0.5 steals per game in the regular season, which means he was probably going under that around 60% of the time. Now you get fewer turnovers in the playoffs. He's played sometimes less than the 20-minute average in the playoffs. He's sometimes played less than his 20-minute regular season average. Sometimes he's played more. So there hasn't been a ton of consistency there. But if we get the benefit of him playing less, fantastic. If he plays a little bit more, still like this. So I think the 64% number is quite strong. And then we're going to the points. We're going Jamal Murray. But instead of this more than 19.5, which we have at 56.4%, I want to go to the Demon, which is 22.5. Now, if we put this in here, it's going to be a little bit less than 50%. We got 42.1%, which, again, remember, that's a pretty strong Demon, except for the fact that this is down to 32x, not 38x. Again, I don't know what is driving that change from PrizePicks, but it's only 32x today with this exact 6-pick play. But I happen to think it's more likely than 42% for a combination of reasons. Number one, this line has dropped so much based on what Murray has done in this series, which has been a combination of 3 things. Number one, Nikola Jokic has figured out a way to dominate offensively. I don't know what adjustment Minnesota will make for that, but I've got to think something is coming. Something is coming to make sure that Jokic doesn't do what he did last game here tonight. Number 2, Murray seemed to have been a little bit hobbled, at least early in the series. With each game, you got to think he's getting a little bit healthier. And then the last thing is this Minnesota defense is just fantastic, especially against a guard like Jamal Murray. But it's still Jamal Murray in the playoffs. He hasn't shot that well. If he just has one game where he's shooting well, 22.5 might get flown by. If he scores 30 tonight, are you going to be surprised? Of course not. He's Jamal Murray in the playoffs. So I think going to the Demon here makes a ton of sense because it's one of those things where it either feels like we're right about Murray, being more like his playoff self, or we're either right or we're not about Minnesota kind of adjusting to what Jokic has done and maybe putting a little bit more attention on Jokic, a little less on Murray, or we're not right about that. And in that case, the more than 19.5 and the more than 22.5 doesn't seem like a 14 percentage point difference. It seems more like a 5 to 10 percentage point difference for me. So I really like this Demon, which gives us 5 plays. And then we're going to go to the PGA Championship. A lot of birdies being made out there on the course today. It's a pretty soft course, some very gettable par 5s. The play that I like the most is going to be Padraig Harrington, more than 2.5 birdies or better. There are a number of guys that I like a decent amount at 3.5, but remember, PrizePicks slashes odds when you correlate in PGA like they never did before. So we don't want to go multiple of these more than plays on the birdie or better. The one that I like the most is going down to the 2.5 number, Padraig Harrington, instead of some slightly better players at 3.5, 2.5. It's just such an easy number to get to, especially in a course like this, with the par 5s as gettable as they are today. So that's our 6-pick play. We got, these 2 NBA picks here. We've got Jamal Murray, more than 22.5 points. That's a Demon. Christian Braun, less than 0.5 steals. Padraig Harrington, more than 2.5 birdies or better. and then more than on the fantasy point projections for Clark Schmidt and Christian Javier, less than on the fantasy point projection for Taijuan Walker. That's our 6-pick play of the day. Hopefully we get that 32x hit. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We will catch you next time.